ओम सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांतिः। ओम सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। Hari Om, salutations to all. So we are seeing the final advice, and yesterday 543 we saw that the Jivan Mukta can adapt to all types of people, and it is not easy to know a Jivan Mukta from external behavior. In fact, it is not easy to judge anybody from the way they behave outside, because what is their intention, what manifests, we generally see only the manifestation. To some extent we may know the intention, but more than that we don't know. So even when we live in the world with relationships, etc., with people, to judge them or to label them is a futile exercise. Then the Jivan Mukta is definitely above all boundaries of ego. So how to know? That's why he says here that sometimes he looks like a fool, sometimes like a sage, sometimes with royal grandeur, sometimes just roaming about. So there is no fixed mold. Jivan Mukta will be like this. Though the society may want, society puts everything into a mold. A police must be like this, a doctor must be like this, a husband must be like this, a wife must be like this, a son must be like this. One goes on putting everything into a mold. And anyone tries to break that mold, the acceptance is not there, or there is resistance, or they are condemned. That process goes on in the society. The realized person is one here who has gone beyond the ego. So if you see Jivan Muktananda Lahiri, some of those, this verse is expressing some of the ideas of that also. That he will behave like a fool with the fools. So nobody will know here he is a realized person. And with the wise people, he can argue, or he can present his points as a great scholar. So that in there it comes from there, this idea is again given out. So the point here is this: Satata Paramananda Sukhitaha. No matter what is their external engagement, internally they are reveling in that state of absolute bliss. Now come a series of verses which are again like pair of opposites or contradictions, but that's the only way to describe the Jivan Mukta. And those are also not to define or limit that Jivan Mukta, but give us a certain direction in which the mind can think. 544. Nirdhanopi sada tushtaha, Nirdhanopi sada tushtopi, Asahayo mahabalaha, Nityatriptopyabhunjano, Nityatriptopyabhunjanopi, Asamasamadarshanaha. Nirdhanopi sada tushtaha. They may not have any money at all, but completely contented. Our condition is opposite. Sadhanopi sada atriptaha. With all the wealth and power, everything, we still remain discontent. And some of these Mahatmas, no money at all. They don't know where the next meal will come from. But sada tushtaha, ever contented. Asahayo mahabalaha. They may not have anyone to help them, but they are the strongest. Nityatripto api abhunjanaha. And one does not enjoy sense objects, but still one is happy. Nityatripto api abhunjano api samaha asamaha samadarshanaha. A realized person is a cut above the rest, but still the realized person has equal vision. So pairs of opposites. Nirdhanopi sada tushtaha. Because our psychological security depends on money. So we derive a lot of self-confidence also from that, feeling of security also from that. The capability to enjoy, we feel, is there because of this money, because it can buy some comforts, enjoyments. But this person, the realized person, the sense of security, self-esteem, etc., doesn't come from any of these external things. The tushti here is atma tushti, abiding in the self. So nirdhanopi sada tushtaha, ever contented. So the mind doesn't fluctuate. When favorable circumstances are there and some wealth comes, their mind is same. Unfavorable circumstances, the wealth goes, mind is still same. No difference. Because internally, no, it doesn't affect them at all. Many times that is difficult for us to even imagine. That's the reason why the company of such people is most important. Because only then we can understand how are they living. Sitting here intellectually, we can imagine many things. We may not know what exactly is their state. If we have to live nirdhana for some time, we start wondering from where, what will happen, how will I live. They live every minute. Kailash Yatra, Tapon Maharaj did. 1 or 2 pairs of clothes, that's all. On the way, whoever is living in some villages, for sometimes, if you read that book Kailash Yatra, it comes in that. Sometimes there is no food, hungry, and he has to climb mountains and mountains. And there are some people who have come along with him on the way. Sometimes he is traveling with some prince from one point to another. The Prince of Nepal is traveling with him. So all, royal entourage is there and the food and everything is there. After some point, he tells the entourage that I can't keep pace with you. So you go ahead. and he's again alone. And many times mountains and mountains are there, endless mountains are there, forests are there, no possibility of getting proper food there. And sometimes there is a danger of wild creatures. In one place he writes there that they were staying on in a dilapidated house on the hilltop, mountain top somewhere. And he says in the nights the tigers and bears are roaming around freely all around that hut. Imagine. And it's a dilapidated hut. It is not like some pakka building or some such thing. Tigers and bears all roaming around there in the night. No fear. They are still living there. So many things happen in that Kailas Yatra when we read. Then we understand, even wandering in the Himalayas and many such books, how these Mahatmas they live. Somebody who has been associated with them will understand this shloka can be understood only with that, because he says asahayo mahabalaha. There is not a weapon in their hand, but there is no fear. One place, when they are passing by the forest, they hear the roar of a tiger. They can see the tiger in the cave, and as the people are passing, like you and I pass on the road and some dog is sitting somewhere and the dog barks, like that the tiger is sitting there in the cave and is giving out a roar. So the people who are with Tapan Maharaj, they tell him, Swamiji, we'll have to walk fast and we have to cross this area because the tiger is irritated. Tapan Maharaj smiles and he's just walking, and he's written everything is Brahman. The trees, the plants, the mountains, the rivers, the tiger, every single thing is Brahman. And he says the countries and the time, these are like bubbles and foam in the ocean of Satchidananda. This is his, he abides in this vision. Meaning space and time is like foam in the ocean of Satchidananda. So the point is this, asahayo api mahabalaha, nirdhano api sada tushtaha. Sometimes they may have money, sometimes no money, sometimes clothes, sometimes no clothes. Food, no food, doesn't make a difference. Reveling in that state of self. Asahayopi mahabalaha. Nitya tripto abhunjanaha. They are not enjoying great sense objects, but ever in bliss. Just think the opposite situation for us is all true. We are reveling in sense objects, still we are not blissful. We have enough power, still we feel helpless. We have enough wealth, we still feel discontented. And they have no attachment, they have to leave, they just leave. Imagine you go to such yatras, get exhausted. We go for 1 or 2 days to Gomukh Yatra, come back, and then 7 days we have to rest. These Mahatmas, they are wandering in the Himalayas, and in those times I'm talking about, where this proper roads, etc., are even not there. No proper, arrangement for food or resting houses, dharamsalas, nothing. And he took up the yatra. He writes many places that my body has become very weak. I am exhausted. My body has become very weak. So in some places he stays also for 5-6 days. But again he moves. Sometimes even with that weak condition of the body, he moves. So we may get attached to some comfort, some convenience, and we may need the body, to have more rest, and we may sometimes even give up, saying, no, no, this is not possible. This such a tough yatra, who can do? I will not do. Today also we do, with all facilities available, we are not able to reach the destination that we decide, whether it is Gomukh or it is Kedarnath or it is the Kailas Yatra, whatever it is. We have to start training from now. Start walking and do incline training and so many things one has to do. Then one will manage to hopefully reach up there. Oximeter one has to take every time, and then measure the oxygen level, and oh ho ho. Look at, if you read those books Tapan Maharaj wrote, what oximeter? Nothing, no oximeter, no any equipment, no warm clothing and this and that. They are just going. And the villagers, the kind of satkar they do of the sadhus, and the villagers help them out. And sometimes the villagers are not able to help them out. They feel sorry and they say, we are very sorry, we don't have anything. For days on end, sometimes they are just living on dry roti. On the way, some villages, if it comes, then some milk they may get, or buttermilk they may get. Their life just goes on like that. We will have every day, before we go to Kailas Yatra, the menu we will check. What will we get in the breakfast, what in lunch, what in between, in snack, in the dinner time, all 20,000 questions people will ask. And that service provider, whoever is taking, that will also will try to convince the yatris. We will give you pav bhaji there at the base of Kailas. We will give this, we will give that. Oh, Bapre. Tapan Maharaj, if he would hear all this, he would say, this is not a yatra at all. Don't even do it. From his standpoint, I'm saying. So what is the point here? That here is the Mahatma, how they live. See, Nitya Tripto Api Abhunjanaha. Passing through dense forests. What sense objects, what sense enjoyment. Sometimes they are living in the forest. And one place Tapan Maharaj has written there, he said that we had to cross these forests and reach a particular village because we did not even have a matchbox. In that phase of their journey, they did not even have a matchbox. So he said, to live in this forest in the night without fire is most dangerous. So we had to catch up, and in spite of whatever may be the condition of the body, we have to reach that particular village. And they walk. Finally, they managed to reach the village by night around 11 p.m. For us, 11 p.m. is ordinary 11 p.m. In the forest, 11 p.m. is by 6 p.m. only it becomes dark. 5 hours they somehow manage to walk, and then they reach that village. Now think, you and I will get frustrated, we will get irritated, we may not even take up a yatra, but look at them. Asahayo Mahavalaha Nitya Trupto Api Abhunjanaha Asamaha Samadarshanaha. They revel in the absolute bliss. Nobody can compare to a Jivan Mukta. But the Jivan Mukta doesn't feel any special distinction. The Jivan Mukta sees everybody as an expression of Brahman. Like I said, they see Satchidanand, is an ocean of Satchidanand. Asamaha Samadarshanaha. Beautiful verses these are actually. Api kurvanna kurvanaha cha bhokta phalabhogyapi shariryapya shariryeshu parichinnopi sarvagaha. Again, api kurvan na kurvanaha. They may be doing many actions, but they are abiding in non-doership. Abhokta phala bhogyapi. They may be enjoying fruits of action, meaning the results, still they are in the state of non-enjoyership. Sharirapi ashariryeshah. Though there is a body, they live in a state which is beyond body. Parichinnopi sarvagaha. Though their form is limited, they are all pervasive. The pointers of the self also come in contradictions. Smaller than the smallest, bigger than the biggest. Staying in one place, it goes far. Many such pointers will be there. Jivan Mukta also has similar contradictions. Of course, because Jivan Mukta and the self are one and the same, but there the contradiction there is not like the contradiction here. Because here it is the finite versus infinite. There it is apparent contradictions in the nature of the self. So that we don't form any conditionings or fixed ideas about the self. Here it is between finite and infinite. That is why a Jivan Mukta is more mind-boggling. To describe Brahman is easy, to describe a Jivan Mukta is difficult. More difficult than describing Brahman is to describe a Jivan Mukta. Because the contradiction is irreconcilable. Parichinnopi sarvaga. How can something which is limited be all pervasive? Yeah. Having a body yet bodiless. The Brahman is bodiless. So easy to explain. No body. Unborn, unchanging, undying. Easy to explain. Jivan Mukta is with the body and yet bodiless. You can see the Jivan Mukta doing so many actions, still actionless. What the Gita says, action in inaction, inaction in action. A deluded person, even though one is sitting quietly doing nothing, it appears that that person is idle, but there is a lot of action going on, thinking and imagining and brooding going on. Action in inaction and inaction in action. Inaction in action is a Jivan Mukta. So many times you will see them like Tapon Maharaj taking up Kailas Yatra or writing books, or Gurudev running organizations, or Raman Maharshi, sitting quietly in the Tiruvannamalai and he meets the devotees who come, clarifies their doubts, does the Giri Pradakshina. So action they are still doing. Quality of action may change, but they are abiding in actionlessness. Kurvan api kurvan na kurvanaha. Why? Because no sense of ego, individuality is gone. We feel I am the jiva, so I am karta, I am bhokta. That kartritva, bhoktritva is expression of our ignorance. We don't know that we are the self. To certain extent, you can connect this to the example of the actor and the role. So when the actor is playing the role, yet the actor knows I am not the role. Actor may do certain, let us say, shoots the villain, and the villain also apparently dies. But the actor may escape or may go into a jail. So it appears that action was done, result was got, but deep down there is neither doership, there is no enjoyership. So one remains unaffected. In the movie, one may still see, oh, emotions will run high, and then suddenly, bullet is shot, and then that person is dead, and everybody is stunned. Oh God, what happened? How did this fellow die? But the actor knows that nothing has happened. Kurvan napi na kurvanaha. Bhoktapi, abhokta phala bhogyapi. No karta bhav, no bhokta bhav. Look at the life which will be no karta bhav, no bhokta bhav. Action is happening, Results also the BMI is facing, but nothing binds that person. How free is that mind? Which means that no further karma bandhan is created. For us, all new karma bandhans get created. Even if we do karma yoga, in popular, uh, not popular, what we should say, in introductory classes or in mass, when we have to explain karma yoga, then we say that when we act in the spirit of karma yoga, no new vasanas are created, existing vasanas get exhausted, mind becomes quieter to become contemplative, which is enough for common people to know. But if we go into the depth of Vedant, then Karma Yoga also creates Vasana. As long as Karta Bhav is there, Vasana will be created. Then what is the difference? Difference is that the Vasana will be a Sattvic Vasana. Because the ego is sublimated, that the cause is important or I'm doing it for the Lord. The Rajasic and Tamasic Vasanas don't get strengthened. The Sattvic Vasana will get strengthened. And that karma being selfless in nature, it will give rise to punya karma phala. So the result of that punya karma phala will be satsang, the company of a guru, ability to understand well, the purity of mind, abidance in sadhana, and finally through all this, realization. That's the clarity that one must have. In general, we don't have to tell so many technicalities to people, but when we study text in depth, then we should know very clearly that Karma Yoga will create a Vasana. It is only a person who has gone beyond doership that no impression is created for that person alone. And that's why the example given for such masters is they are like the fish that swims in water or the bird that flies in the sky. There is no trace, no footprints. You can't trace their path. But when we walk on sand, then we leave footprints. So we can be traced. So karma is like that. When we do karma with karta bhav, it leaves footprints. It's only jivan mukta. So when he says api kurvan na kurvanaha, this is the jivan mukta sthiti. This is not karma yoga sthiti. A karma yogi creates vasanas, but very sattvic vasanas. Rajas and tamas reduces. Ability to sit quietly increases because of that. Reflective ability increases. The intensity of seeking increases. So Karma Yoga has its own place and its own importance. Here we are talking about Jivan Mukta. Api kurvan na kurvanaha. Abhokta phala bhogyapi. Even if the enjoyment, you may see them, and sometimes when we see them, like the earlier shlokas, they said, we can't know that they are Jivan Mukta. The way they would enjoy some sense object, we will think that ordinary people also enjoy in the same way. Externally, it appears like that. Like Gurudev used to love Shrikhand. My grandfather used to take and go. And he has diabetes. Gurudev had diabetes. Doctor had told no. But whenever he will see my grandfather, Shrikhand, first time he will see, Shrikhand has to be there. He will take ready and he will go. Because they know each other from such a long time. From the time the mission began. So, and Gurudev will take that. Typically, he will take with his finger and he will lick it. And he relishes that so much. And if some doctor is nearby, he will show the doctor, tease the doctor and eat. Now, it is like a child, a child or any other person, that what they have been told don't do, they will do that. But internally, their attitude is very different. There is no body identification. They are not doing it to irritate somebody or for their pleasure or their attachment to that enjoyment. Eat it. Abhokta phalabhogyapi. There is no bhokta bhav at all. Internally, nothing. So that's why it is called Leela. The word Leela, when we use for Bhagwan, that word Leela can apply even to the Jivan Mukta. That this is the Leela that they do. What is the meaning of Leela? Where there is no Karta Bhav, Bhokta Bhav, that is called Leela. Karma Yoga is not a Leela. Karma Yoga is a sadhana. Leela can be done by those who have no Karta Bhav, Bhokta Bhav. Like a father may put on a mask and play with the child. Father is not thinking I become a tiger because I put the mask. There is no Karta Bhav about the tiger. So then that is called Leela. Or we see actor example, that is called Leela. So many people think that, oh, whatever Bhagwan does is Leela, and whatever we do, then it is not a Leela. Bhagwan can have 16,008 wives, and if I have two, then people are getting so angry. I should have only one. What nonsense is this? Arey, Bhagwan is Bhagwan, first of all. And there is no Karta Bhav. And he is not doing it because of attachment to sense pleasure. He is doing to save them because they came seeking his refuge. He did not run behind them. That nobody bothers about that. One goes on criticizing the Lord for anything. But try drinking poison and dance on that Kaliyanag. If you want to be like Krishna, then be like Krishna in everything. So this first line of this shloka is to say that there is no karta bhav, there is no bhokta bhav, that everything that is done there in with that abidance in non-doership, non-enjoyership, that is called Leela. Because this principle is not understood. So what people think that whatever Bhagwan does is Leela. Why whatever Bhagwan does is Leela? Because there is no karta bhav, there is no bhokta bhav. Bhagwan has sarvatma bhav, that there is only one truth. The Jivan Mukta also has that sarvatma bhav here. Api kurvan na kurvanaha. Abhokta phala bhogyapi. And that's why I'm saying all these shlokas are such that when we associate with the Jivan Mukta, then we realize this how they live this massive organization Gurudev set up, but no attachment to it, no sense of ownership also to it. See, it is beautiful to understand. When they wanted to start an organization, they wrote to Gurudev. Gurudev said, I refuse to get bound by an organization. Don't limit me. They said, we are seekers of the truth, consciousness, and hence we want to call this as Chinmay Mission. If you can guide us, we will be grateful. So Gurudev is guiding them. And 42 years, it is not a joke to guide for 42 years without a sense of doership. In our case, we may start with certain non-doership, but we very soon get attached. 42 years he lived in that non-doership, no attachment, took the organization to a peak. Even at that point in time when they asked him what will happen to this after you, he said, he who is taking care right now will take care after me also. So before the organization started, he was abiding in non-doership detachment. While the organization is there, he is working hard, because for him the organization is not his organization. It is a means to serve the society. And he was not attached to that means at all. If that means has to change, he may change that also. So no attachment before, no attachment during, while the organization is going on, and even when one has to drop, no attachment. He did not name any successor of this organization. He trained Guruji, Swami Tejomayananda ji, and indicated that you have to go and start visiting, the centers in India and take charge of the work there. But formally, they never appointed that such and such person will be my successor. There's nothing wrong also if he has appointed. But my point is, he never appointed. So, though all actions have happened throughout 42 years to build this legacy, no doership. That's the foundation there. Api kurvan na kurvanaha abhokta falabhogyapि. Shariri api ashariryeshaha. They have a physical form, but there is no form attachment. They live in that state, abiding in that state of bliss. Sadhana time, what is sadhana? To rise above body identification is sadhana. So even in samadhi avastha, one goes and again comes back to body identification, again comes, this sadhana goes on happening till a point where there is no attachment to the body at all, no identification, completely gone. That state is called yadgatva na nivartante, abiding in which there is nothing more to achieve. Sahaj Samadhi it is called. Now, though the body may be there, they don't identify that this is my body as you and I identify. Functional identity will be there, but the psychological identity has become zero, that I am not this. In fact, they see only Brahman. So shariri api ashariryeshaha. There is no body. Then parichinnopi sarvagaha. Though limited, they are all pervasive. Limited but all pervasive. Parichinna api sarvagaha. So three types of parichinnata are there. Limitations. Desha, Kala and Vastu. Limitation of Desha means the body. From the top of the head to the tip of the toe, that is Desha. Less, the form. Less pervasive, more pervasive. That's the nature of the form. But the form cannot be all pervasive. Space. Desha Parichinnata. Then Kala Parichinnata. What is today will not remain tomorrow. What was yesterday is not there today. So time changes everything. And object. The qualities of a book are different from the computer, from the flask, from the, let us say, speaker. All different qualities. One who is not bound by any of this, Desha, Kala, Vastu, Aparichinna, that is a Jivan Mukta Sthiti. And the self is in that, self alone is that. So Sarvagaha is all pervasive. As existence, consciousness, bliss. Parichinnopi Sarvagaha. So the body is limited by Desha, Kala, Vastu, no doubt. And they may use the words also. Like I said, Tapan Maharaj writes, my body was exhausted. But that their sentence, my body was exhausted, and our sentence, my body is exhausted, is completely different. They know that this I and my is a mithya. For us, that I and mine is real. They may even take rest to get strength for the body so that the body can continue the yatra. But for them, that is all mithya, falsified, like the actor. But for us, this is very real. There's a difference. So, parichinnopi sarvagaha. Though there is a body, though they may say that this is my body, I am hungry, that is usage. But inside, they know that I am all pervasive. Parichinnopi sarvagaha. Ashariram sada santam imam brahmavidam kvachit priya priyena sprishyatah प्रिया प्रियेण स्पृशतः तथैव च शुभाशुभे ashariram sada santam always lives in the idea that I am not the body. Imam Brahma vidam kvachit. This knower of Brahman lives with this bhavana. I am not the body at all. That's why he has come to know Brahman. Priya Priya apriye na sprishatah. Pleasure and pain don't touch the mind of the person. Tathaiva cha shubha shubhe. And good and evil also don't. So does it mean they will not experience pleasure and pain? Or they will not be able to discriminate what is good and what is evil? No, they will. Like we said, they when they are walking, they realize that it is dark in the night and one should cross the forest soon because the wild animals etc. are there. And they also know what is good and what is evil very clearly. So in one place he writes there, that they had lit a fire and they were sitting in the night. Tapon Maharaj is not sleeping. The rest of them have gone to sleep after some time. So he was sitting quietly and suddenly he heard some sound of something approaching. So the thought comes to his mind that these places are also frequented by thieves and dacoits. They loot away the things of the yatris and sometimes they even murder them. This thought is there in Tapan Maharaj's mind as that sound is coming of somebody approaching. But there is no fear in his mind. He is not panicking. He is not trying to wake up people. Hey, get up, somebody is coming. Nothing. The thought is coming, it is going, and he knows that there is evil also. There are people who can murder, kill, loot, plunder. Anything can happen in these yatras. But he's sitting quietly there. And then those who are coming, they come near the fire. So Tapan Maharaj sees. And what he sees, there are some group of sadhus. Some 4 sadhus. So he knows who is a sadhu, who is a thief, what is where there is a threat or a danger, where there is no threat and danger, all that. So good and evil they will perceive, they may even have those thoughts, but no identification, and it doesn't create the kind of disturbance it creates in our mind. Shubha shubhe, priya priye na sprishatah, that's the word used. Sprishatah means they don't touch, meaning they don't affect the person. It's not that they don't arise. Because in the world when one is living, the body is there, the mind is there, it is subjected to pairs of opposites. But they know it is unreal. So it doesn't create that kind of impact that it creates in our mind. Like the viewer who is watching the movie, if that viewer is abiding in some detachment, the viewer knows this is not real, nothing is happening there. Though the thoughts may come, what will happen next in the movie, this, that, but inside one knows nothing is happening. But somebody who has forgotten that gets so identified with that movie, with some character, and then they go through all ups and downs of that character. And the best part is, the actor may not have gone through that much of emotional turbulence that this viewer is going through because of identification. That's the power of identification. That identification makes that person go through it very intensely. The actor himself or herself may not have gone through it so much. The director, the script writer, none of them would have gone through it so much, but this person goes through it. That's the power of identification. And here they have dropped that entire identification. Ashariram sada santam brahma vidam kvachit. Imam brahma vidam kvachit. All the time they revel in that state. I am not the body. And pleasure, pain, body level, this Shubha, Ashubha at the mind level, they may rise also, but they will not affect. स्थूलादि संबंधवतोभिमानिनः सुखं च दुःखं च शुभाशुभे च विध्वस्त बंधस्य सदात्मनो मुनेः कुतः शुभं वाप्यशुभं फलं वा. This is Thuladi Sambandhavato Abhimaninaha. Someone who has identification with the gross body, etc. Adi means etc. Sthuladi means gross body, subtle body, causal body, all that. Sukham cha dukkham cha shubha shubhe cha. For them, this sukha and dukkha, shubha and ashubha, meaning the pleasure and pain, happiness and sorrow, those exist. Vidhvasta bandhasya sadatmano munehe. One who has destroyed this false identification and is abiding in the self, sada atmano munehe, kuta shubham vapya shubham phalamba. Then what is shubha, what is ashubha? So as I said, shubha and ashubha is not in the self. It is the pairs of opposites in the realm of change. And the mind and the body may go through shubha and ashubha also. And those appropriate thoughts will rise in the mind also. But what is the crux here? Vidhvasta bandhasya. The bandhana that I am this, that is dropped. So these two earlier words also actually, 546 and 547, they are like a pair. The 546 is stating a principle, and the 547 is giving the reasoning. That it is not rising, it is not affecting them, not touching them, though it is rising, because no identification. Like Ramakrishna used to give that example, you know, that when somebody goes for wrestling, then they apply oil and go. So the opponent can't get a proper grip on them. So as though these great Mahatmas, they have the oil of non-identification applied on their body and the mind. So Shubha and Ashubha and Sukha and Dukkha doesn't have any grip on them. These karma phalas may affect them, there is no doubt, but they cannot grasp them, grip them, make them feel like how we feel the intensity of those emotions and we think it is real. None of that happens. We may see them going through some emotions also. Like when Ram Batra passed away, Gurudev cried. And you know, when the Suvarna Tulabharam is done, he was very happy, and you know, the gold coins, etc., he was throwing also as prasad. But in neither of these cases, there is, you know, the elation and the depression the way we go through it. Nothing, they don't touch, because no identification. Then what do they go through? At the max, we can say they remain as a witness of the activities of this BMI, nothing more than that. So Shubha, Shubha, Sukha, Dukkha, all that comes to the BMI, doesn't come to them. They are living as the Sakshi. So it doesn't affect them at all. So it is not that their life becomes dull, that they become emotionless, or they are insensitive, or you know, nothing affects at all. No, it is not like that. If it didn't affect them, they would not do so much of seva. Meaning, affect them in the sense, if it did not, that if that emotion did not rise, the seva also will not happen. Because from absolute standpoint, they are seeing only one Brahman. So whose seva, what seva, who is doing, there is nothing happening. But that's absolute standpoint. At the relative standpoint, body is there, mind is there, and you and I are seeing it. So for us, we see the difference. That they feel the pain, so they want to remove the sorrow of the opposite person. But the suffering of the opposite person, the feeling of pain in this person, the actions to remove the suffering, all that which is happening, the Mahatma is seeing it as a witness that I am a Sakshi, I am not this entity, nor is that person that entity. There's only one consciousness, they abide in that I am a witness of that consciousness. Tamasa grastavad bhanuhu तमसा ग्रस्तवद्भानाद् अग्रस्तोऽपि रविर्जनैः ग्रस्त इत्युच्यते भ्रान्त्या ह्यज्ञात्वा वस्तु लक्षणम्. So now he says here that tamasa grastavad bhanuhu. Now see, this is Vivek Chudamani. Even if you say Shankaracharya ji wrote this in 7th century AD, very clearly he has written about solar eclipse in this. What does he say? It appears that Rahu has eaten the sun. Tamasa grastavad bhanad agrastopi ravirjanaihi. The sun is never eaten by the Rahu. People may see from the earth, when people see, then for them it appears as though the Rahu is eating. And many of you must have seen those videos also of the solar eclipse, or you put the solar glasses and then see. It's a very fascinating sight that when this moon comes in between the sun and the earth, it actually appears as though the moon is eating the sun. It's amazing. So people, they do say that Rahu has eaten up the sun, it is inauspicious and all that they will say. That is common people. Shastra doesn't say any of that. This year we had the Surya Grahan, that time we had a satsang, in that I spoke about that also. The point here is that our masters and many people, they knew that this Rahu story is a story. It is not that the sun is being eaten up at all. The sun is ever shining. Nothing has happened to the sun. It is a moon coming in between. So, grasta iti uchyate bhrantya. Bhrantya, say the word they will use. Out of delusion, they think that the sun is eaten. Ajñatva vastu lakshanam, because they don't know what is the truth. The truth is the sun is ever shining. Even when the eclipse is going on, sun is shining completely on its own. There is nothing to, there is no darkness that is eating up the sun or Rahu eating up the sun. The moon is coming in between, so people on the earth see as though the moon is eating the sun. It is not real. They knew this before. They have written that so many years ago. I am not even talking about Aryabhatta or Bhaskaracharya or any such people who are by themselves, astronomers. This is Shankaracharya ji writing. And it is amazing how Shankaracharya ji wrote so many such things. In one place he writes about gravity also. And so many centuries later, Newton is credited with discovery of gravity. Yes, he must have discovered for the Western world, European world or whatever it is. But in our country here, it's not that we were illiterate and only Newton discovered that. Our people knew all this. Now coming to the specific point of this, in the context that we are seeing, why the solar eclipse example is given? Because of delusion, the sun appears to have been eaten, but even when it appears to have been eaten, it is ever shining. Same way, because of delusion, it appears that the infinite has become the finite. Even when it appears that it has become finite, it has not become finite. It is only self-shining alone. There is no darkness that can envelope the sun. So there can never be an ignorance that will envelope the self, and then this whole creation comes about. That is, just imagine the comparison. How by delusion one thinks that the sun is eaten by the darkness, That is a comparison given here. With that kind of a delusion, we think that self has become this whole world and ignorance is real. Like Rahu is real, who is eating away the sun. Ignorance is real, which is as though covering the self and then projecting the multiple, the multitudes of creation. Both are Bhranti only, ignorance. So, Grasta ityuchyate Bhrantya. Ajnatva Vastu Lakshanam, because one doesn't know the real nature. The sun is ever shining. In the same way, self alone is all the time. There is no possibility of any change in that or any creation coming out from that. Even if one says that no, Maya Shakti and Bhagwan's Shakti, and then it is creating the whole world, that's only an explanation for our standpoint. If we lift ourselves to the higher standpoint, then we will know. Like somebody who is in a space shuttle somewhere up there in space, we'll see that, oh, here is the sun, here is the moon, here is the earth. Oh, what a beautiful alignment. That's all. They will not see as though the moon is eating the sun. Nothing. They would see beautiful arrangement. All the three are rotating at a particular speed. That's about it. So we have to lift our vision. Then you see the truth. Truth is something else. That truth alone is actually, there's nothing else. So his analogy is very nice analogy. The Rahu, the solar eclipse when it happens. Second aspect of this analogy is, so one is that it never ate up the sun. Second aspect is it's just an obstacle that has come in between. The moon coming in between is appearing as an obstruction from our standpoint. Moon is actually not an obstruction. Moon is just doing its circling around the earth. It has nothing, it has no intention or idea or anything that I am coming in between earth and sun. And so this sun is getting as though covered because of me. How can the moon ever cover the sun? It is just not possible. But from the earth standpoint, when we see, then it appears like that obstruction is there. As long as body identification is there, so long one will think that ignorance is real, world is real, that it is obstructing the vision of the self. Like I said, the example, when the person goes into space, meaning from earth, when one rises and goes higher, then one sees that there is no obstruction, there is nothing happening out there actually. Same way, when we rise above body identification, then one realizes there is no duality at all. There was never a duality. There is only one absolute bliss. So that is 548. For today we will stop here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.